So to make this Flower Girl wand, you will need an old book and some coloured paper. You don't need very much, you just need enough to cut 4 leaves. You'll also need the leaf template and the petal template. You can draw your own using my tutorial, or you can download the templates from my website, and if you print them out at 100% on A4 paper, they will be exactly the right size. You'll also want some flexible wire. Now I don't know what gauge this is, I apologise, but it is just very thin, very bendy wire. Not so bendy that it will move on its own, but it holds its shape. So any sort of flexible wire will do. You'll also want to have a wooden stick for the stem of the rose. So I like to use for the wands a garden stick, and this one is about 5mm in diameter. You can use one of the wooden kebab sticks, but they're a bit more flexible. And I just like to use a more sturdy wand because they're wands, they're going to get jiggled about quite a bit. You'll also want to have some regular PVA glue, some high-tack glue for the leaves. Now you can use PVA glue if you haven't got the high-tack glue, that's fine. And you'll also need some wallpaper paste. I mix this up using the wallpaper paste flakes, and there is also a link in the video description to show you how to do this. And you will also need some florist tape. I like to use the dark green, but you can use any colour that you prefer, that's fine. 2 lengths of ribbon, 2 different colours, or you can have the same colour if you prefer. I'm just going to use up some of my spare ribbons, and this is just a single-sided satin. I do prefer to use the single-sided satin for binding up the stems because they're a little bit more flexible and forgiving. And you'll also need some paint and a paintbrush. Now I'm doing this rose in pink, so I'm going to mix a pale pink coloured paint myself, but you can use any colour. I use acrylic paint, but any brand is fine. So that's the equipment that you'll need. So what we need to do to get started is to make the rose. Now if you are familiar with making my roses, you can skip this part and go on to the painting or the leaf assembly. Just use the timestamps or chapters in the video description and you can find exactly what you need. But if you do need to know how to make the rose, then here we go. First of all, tear 4 pages from your chosen book. Simply fold all 4 pages in half. And this is where I've forgotten to say that you need scissors. Ta-da! You'll also need some scissors. So take your petal template and just line it up with the edge of the text. I usually leave a little gap at the bottom. That's fine. If you want to be a perfectionist, then you can not have that at the bottom, but I like to leave a little gap. And what we want to do is just cut around our petal template 3 times, and each cut will give us 8 petals. And we only need 21 petals to make this rose, but it's always handy to have a few spares just in case the text isn't really sitting nicely on the petals. So to make the rose, what I will do is lay out the petals in 3 rows of 6. Now you see this petal hasn't got an awful lot of text on it, so I'll just flip it over. And then I put 2 petals to the right hand side and all the rest to the left. So take your first petal, and what we want to do is curl it in on the right hand side to the middle, and we want to make a little point and a little opening in a cone shape. Then we'll put a dab of wallpaper paste inside the shape, pop in the wooden stem and give it a squeeze to hold it in place. Then we'll take our thread and we'll simply wind it around to hold the petal to the stem. And I like to wind it down all the way to the bottom of the petal shape. And then we'll add a dollop of wallpaper paste to each of the petals in front of us. Pick up our stem and take the first petal from the bottom row. With the curl facing forwards, we want to align the petal with the base of the petal on the stem, curl it around the stem, take your thread and just bind it in place. With the second petal, we want to place it directly opposite the first, or the second rather, and curl it around and hold it in place with the thread. For the next petal, and for all the rest of the petals, we want to align it so that the middle of the new petal aligns with the very edge of the previous petal. And we just continue to add all of the rest of the petals in this way. That's annoying me. Let's move that out of the way. When we get to the very last petal, add it in the normal way, but give it a few extra twists and bring it down to the stem. Snip it off and apply some wallpaper paste around all of the thread and all of that bunchy bit at the bottom. Now the rose doesn't look anything special right now, but we just need to tease it open very gently with our fingertips. And what we have is a lovely open rose, and we need to set that aside to dry. Now, depending on how warm your room is, that might take a few hours to dry the wallpaper paste completely. In the summer I find that these dry in a few hours. In the winter I just usually leave them overnight. So leave that overnight and we'll come back to that in a jiffy. So for the next stage, what you want to do is to prepare the leaves. Now what I will normally do is I will fold my coloured paper or card so that the leaf template fits just nicely and we've got a fold. And we want to cut 2 leaves together. And then what we want to do is cut off about 30 centimetres of wire. Lay out your leaf templates, so you've got 2 at the bottom and 2 at the top. And using the high-tack glue, simply apply some high-tack glue around the edges and up the middle of the lower 2 leaves. Take your wire and place it down the centre of the glued leaf. Now I leave about 1 centimetre and 1.5 centimetres at the top and press its pair into place. Now I like to use an old tea towel just to firmly press the 2 leaf shapes together, and then on the other end of the wire we'll attach the other leaf. And then I'll cut a few notches in the leaf, 3 or 4 down either side. I don't normally measure these are just popped in randomly. And we'll just pop those to one side for now. Right, for this next stage I have mixed up some paint. I've got a little pot of water and I've had to zoom all this in. So yeah, I like to hold the rose so it's on the edge of the table so that I can steady my hand as I turn the rose and I paint it. So I'll start with having some water on my paintbrush and picking up some of the paint, and then I simply very carefully apply some paint to the edge of the petals. I tend to use the point of the paintbrush to reach down inside and the edge of the paintbrush to paint the edges. And then once I've done the outer petals, I will just check that I've got them all covered, and then I will work on the outside petals. Missed one. Yeah. So yeah, set that aside to dry and then we can move on to the next stage. Right, so we're all dry and all we need to do now is cover the stem with some florist tape. Sometimes I start under here, but for this one I'm going to start at the bottom, and so we just need to hold the florist tape over the end, pull it down and wrap it around on itself, and then simply bring the florist tape up the stem. Try not to leave any gaps, keep it nice and taut, cover all of the thread, and when we get just on the underside, what we want to do is just trim off a length. That's probably about 6 or 7 centimeters. I'm going to put some glue just along under the bunchy bit and on the florist tape, and we're just going to wrap it around just to cover all of that bunchy bit. You will get a bit of glue on your fingers, so if that's going to disturb you, then you might want to skip that part. So the wand has 2 leaves attached, and we're going to attach those so they're just poking out the side, and attach them with a little bit of florist tape. And then just to secure the florist tape, a little bit of glue. So what we want to do now is put some ribbon on the stem. And this one is only part bound, but if you want to, you know, make it your own, you can fully bind it or as you wish. So I'll normally start about 6 centimeters from the bottom, and I'm going to just wrap the ribbon and bring it up slowly. Now this is a single-sided satin. Crikey, that's a tongue twister. So it does stretch slightly. If you're using a double-sided satin, it will ripple on itself, and sometimes you might get some rippling with the single-sided satin as well. We'll bring that right up just underneath here, and I'll pop a little bit of glue on the ribbon, just wrap it around on itself, and then I will normally hold that in place with a clothes peg. However, mine has gone missing, so I need to figure out where my clothes peg's gone. So I'm just going to hold that in place for a little bit. The high tack glue is pretty good, not that good. What else can I hold it with? Let's improvise. I'm improvising. A clothes peg works much better. So now we want to cut off a couple of lengths of ribbon. Now I would usually use about 1 meter, but you can have it as long as you want. And now I need my scissors. Oh dear. So this tutorial is a lesson in being prepared. So this is still single-sided satin, so I'm going to make sure that the satin side is on the outside. And I'll very simply tie it in a knot, both bits of ribbon together, and then hopefully I can bring that up, hold that all in place. And just pull it tight. There we go, we succeeded. And then I'll take the white ribbon, or one of the coloured ribbons, and tie it in another knot. So you can cover these ribbons with embellishments if you choose. But what I like to do, just to finish off the decoration, is to cut these at an angle, and that is the lovely Laverne Flower Girl Wand. She's quite sturdy, you can squeeze her, and don't sit on her obviously, but yeah, she makes a really lovely decoration and also a lovely gift as well. If you've made it this far in the video, do give me a thumbs up, and if you have a go, do let me know how you get on. If I've missed anything or if you get stuck with anything, then just drop me a comment below, or you can catch up with me on Instagram. You can send me a direct message that way as well. So thank you for watching, and hope to see you again soon.